When am I gonna get a Digimon? Want some pointers? Salamon and I are happy to help you work it out. You could talk to BEARMON when she's done with the boss, but I'd suggest waiting until he gets a guest that doesn't look like such a thug. She do be thuggin', but that's totally more grunge. Actually, that might not be the word for it. Regardless, the things someone wears shouldn't influence your opinion enough for you to call them things like thug. Looks like those two are having fun. They're good guys. You got some nice company here. Don't I know it? But me knowing the value of my facets doesn't do anyone any good, and stickmen don't really make much of an impression on the visual side of things. BEARMON, on the other hand, is a really strong first impression, and there's definitely a certain tang of attitude that comes with a creature who is brought into creation with a backwards cap on their head. Yeah, but it's not like it's stuck on there. Want to try it on? That would make my day. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I make sure to cherry pick the Digimon I bring into the box for the show, and with how varied the general dispositions of our wonderful guests can be, I adjust security accordingly. If you glanced at BEARMON, you'd think she'd be on the rowdier side, an excess of belts usually being associated with angst, the backwards cap being a symbol of juvenile rebellion, and dark gray and purple being the kind of color combination you'd usually see on bad guys. You are completely valid if your reading is that this is a punk's Digimon. In fact, it's straight up negligent if you don't take appearance into account when evaluating a new face. The belts on the pronounced arms, buckles facing, straps wrapped around their claws make BEARMON look like she'd beat you up on the street. Good clothes always fall into bins of functional and or fashionable, and since those bundles of belts aren't even the slightest bit fashionable, we have to examine their function. You're entitled to being wrong. They read as DIY brass knuckles, but BEARMON wears them because their punches are too strong and the leather helps cushion the impact so they don't hurt themselves. Now, do you interpret that as written, or do you say, that's what BEARMON says at least, she's just a pushover and uses that as an intimidation tactic? You want to find out? Just spouting hypotheticals. It's important when evaluating design to ask questions about every little detail, even if those questions lead to dead ends. Regardless, though every BEARMON wears them, it's framed as a choice, and that probably extends to the belt across their torsos and the marks below their eyes. Those marks read as eye black if you want to make BEARMON more intimidating, and as blush if you want to soften their image up a bit. But no matter how you take the details in, BEARMON is attitude up and down. Is she your snarky partner in crime, the charming flatmate who watches movies all day while you're at work and talks about paying your boss a visit whenever you complain about them, or the pal who always goes where you go and always has something smart to say? You calling me chatty pink streak? Incredibly. Unlike Agumon, whose charms are in the possibilities their personality can take once they start developing, BEARMON is one of the Digimon who presents personality out the gate for writers to make their own. Agumon isn't going to wake you up at 2 in the morning to tell you they're going to the corner store for a hot dog. I'm not completely convinced most BEARMON would tell you at all. I think that's our way of saying they seem really independent. Independent's a good word for it. I wouldn't be super shaken to find out a BEARMON I was partnered with could cook or cleaned while I was out, and I wouldn't be super shocked to find out that a not insignificant demographic of BEARMON were a bunch of bums. That sort of range comes naturally whenever you associate delinquency with a character. One look at them tells you that this is a social creature, and one with a lot of moxie. Well, 5 or 6 looks will probably tell you that. Look number 1 is going to tell you that this is definitely, indisputably, a bear. You really dug deep for that one. But that is something objective to talk about. Bears are dangerous, dauntless, and defensive. They're intimidating and ferocious, but it's specifically when they're provoked. Bears don't have the longest fuses, but the chances of someone getting ripped into pieces by one are really low unless you royally mess something up. These things don't want to be bothered, and behemoths they may be, they're not going to charge you unless you give them a really good reason to. And if you do, they're gonna charge you. But like, Pooh's a bear. He wants to eat and have peace. As an animal that hibernates, you make packing on the pounds and sleeping for really long times a core part of their very existence. There's also the literary illusions, like having a BEARMON who looks out for you, sticks up for you, and takes attentive care of you whenever they can would be a mama bear. Maybe that's not the characterization I'd shoot for, but it's a precedent and gives a new perspective to engage with at the baseline. So we have BEARMON the thug, BEARMON the bear, and BEARMON the mom? I'm gonna make a Venn diagram. Wait, why? Visualizing this with a Venn diagram is gonna give our audience the wrong idea. Oh, come on, give me any amount of credit here. Okay, sure. This wasn't the original plan, but I'll do my best to make it work. BEARMON the thug, BEARMON the bear, BEARMON the mom, BEARMON the bouncer, BEARMON the overprotective, BEARMON the gangster, BEARMON the boss. Oh lord, what have you roped me into, impulsive heart of mine? New spot me. Oh come on, it's not that bad. A strongly predefined personality makes it a lot easier and a lot more interesting right out the gate. Just with a flimsy assessment, we have 7 different archetypes, and even more if we decide to take any and subvert them. So all that's left is for the people to decide if any of those archetypes, or any tangential or adjacent to them, scratch an itch and fall flush with them. The bear fits best alongside people who need to learn to take life easier, and need a partner willing to stand up and apply a bit of bite in situations where the human doesn't quite feel up to it. The mom fits best alongside a partner who needs to take better care of themselves, and needs someone to look after them while also putting boot to ass whenever they stagnate or regress. The thug is disingenuous. BEARMON's humanity doesn't deserve to be villainized just because they dress with a bit of pizzazz. BEARMON the sheep, BEARMON the bum, and BEARMON the gentleman would all fit completely different hands too, and being the opposite of those personalities we picked out, they're just as fit for them if those kinds of partnerships resound more with you. Agumon had variety in the sheer range of Digimon it could digivolve into, while BEARMON isn't quite so lucky and makes up for that variety with boxes a writer can put them in. These are not the only personalities you can assign to a BEARMON, and they're not even all the ones the design encourages out of you, but by presenting these boxes as pilot holes, it's a lot easier to start hammering out the details instead of starting with a blank and dim-witted slate. All those baselines dramatically change context as BEARMON evolves too. Grizzlymon and those metal claws definitely look a lot scarier, but it still has a bear's disposition. Don't piss it off and it won't clip you into a bunch of paper chain friends. That idea is actually piled onto by making Grizzlymon a martial artist too. Just bear with me. The image BEARMON projects also projects onto the tamer, so whether that's in compliment to the charismatic Bigfoot of a gym rat who somehow stands a whole head taller than Grizzlymon, or the little boy being walked home from school, the simple act of standing next to a Grizzlymon tells us about their personality and their relationship with their apparent partner. That's the goal you want to strike every single time. If the mere sight of a person with a creature partner of theirs tells you something, it's a good pairing. And if that pairing tells you a story, it's great. And naturally, it's easier to tell those stories when making use of a Digimon that's as imposing and impressionable as these two are. BEARMON sets a precedent and Grizzlymon triples down. Keep the focus on the paws, draw attention to the face. Where in BEARMON's case it's the strokes on their cheeks, for Grizzlymon it's the crescent between their eyes that kinda paints a scowl on its mug. Bigger teeth, bigger weapons, and where BEARMON is much more of a bipedal, huggable poo, there is no cuteness to Grizzlymon. That is just a bear, and I say that lovingly. Being just a bear takes everything its rookie form lays down and catapults it to the horizon. The ability for Digimon to degenerate back to their prior forms also gives a lot of room for comedy. Mama BEARMON telling you you're staying up too late and need to take care of yourself might get a chuckle and assurance from you, but Mama Grizzlymon gets a yes ma'am and a bead of sweat. No one's really gonna want to mess with you with a BEARMON at your side, and some people aren't even going to look at you if Grizzlymon's walking behind you. But I guess the big question, and one that's going to come up again with a lot of these, is the difference it makes if the companion chooses you or if you choose the companion. Did BEARMON take to the tamer and naturally find themselves in the role of an overbearing caretaker, or was it the tamer's decision to take on a partner who had their best interest in mind? I think the former is more compelling. I know you do. But first we should address the elephant and try and put together a bigger picture. What does Grizzlymon digivolve into? That's kind of the beauty of it, right? It can turn into Monzaimon, Pandamon, Grappleomon, or even something like Cerberusmon. Digimon are code and data, after all. Theoretically, any Digimon can become any other Digimon. I'm positive that you can construct a massive family tree that makes a perfect circle. But none of those are Grizzlymon's evolution. Here we go. Digimon have 6 stages of power. Baby, Rookie, Champion, Ultimate, Mega, and the ever-elusive Ultra that's reserved for the biggest bads in most fusions. There are Digimon who skip a stage along their lines, and Grizzlymon is one of them. In the context of its Mega form, you can start interpreting Grizzlymon as a warning, and see the severity of the jump between it and Callusmon with confidence that whatever you did, you're gonna be lucky to get a chance to regret it. When I see Callusmon, the first thing I see is a werewolf. It takes the danger that comes with threatening a bear or making a mother's children feel threatened, and Strongman Game hammers that shit up to break the bell. It also, retroactively, makes Grizzlymon and BEARMON seem tame, reserved, and you could almost say domestic. It makes me want to gender BEARMON because of all the cultural backing to the idea of upset mothers. If the bear looming over them wasn't enough to make you stop picking on their cubs, you deserve to deal with Callusmon, and I'm cool assuming that they will be making you deal with them without any shred of mercy in their heart. If we want to take the thuggish angle, look at them. That is a right-hand man to the boss-ass Digimon. Callusmon looks like he turns kneecaps to dust by looking at them. Previously, I mentioned the idea of a particular form of a Digimon being their base, and that base informing their personalities, so I'll make some blanks for all of you. What does it say to you if Callusmon is the norm, and Grizzlymon and BEARMON are ways for them to suppress themselves? What does it say if BEARMON is the base, and Grizzlymon and Callusmon are ratchets of intensity for it to use if it doesn't get its way? What does it say if Grizzlymon is the default, and there's a bit of both in the mix? Tell me what you think in the comments, I'd love to hear your brainstorming. Where Agumon has possibility at its back, BEARMON has permutation, and you're gonna get sick of hearing that word from me in the future. All those little combinations add up and get arranged in different ways depending on the person they're matched up with. The assumption is that partnerships between person and fantastical creature will be perfect. There will be cases where they're not, intentionally or otherwise, and there's always room and reason to flex a bit by making the dysfunctional pair work itself out. And, bonus points, that sort of relationship gives you even more confidence that a pairing will be unique. Divorced and broken salary man with kids and stay-at-home mom Uncle Callusmon goes kinda fucking hard, for example. In this scenario, the Digimon is most comfortable in its Mega form, the massive, hard-to-handle beast that is Callismon, but it takes on a domestic role. I can't decide if it's more charming for the Hulk like that to squeeze his way through doors and have to stay hunched over whenever he needs to go somewhere the ceiling isn't vaulted, or if he's willing to forego his own comfort and be BEARMON all the time after who knows how long of being unchained and wild. I think monstrous Mega forced to live life as a comparably pathetic rookie and outspokenly hating on it while never lashing out against the agreement for the sake of his partner and his partner's kids basically writes itself, and makes for great contrast. Suit and tie salaryman with a little delinquent-looking blabbermouth Digimon? Banger. Same salaryman going around with an entire grizzly bear with boxing gloves on its paws? Intimidating. That guy's probably super hard-boiled, to say nothing for the uncertainty that would wash over anyone who caught him walking around with Callismon, and that's compelling. Or something a bit more restrained. Let me go get my dice. That's 7. We'll do BEARMON the boss, and D4... Oh, come on. Mob boss BEARMON who stays in the rookie form to keep people from getting uneasy around him during business. BEARMON the Dawn. That's hilarious. The motif of bears also means there's reason to believe you should probably watch your mouth around him. If he has to digivolve to Grizzlybon for a talk, he will. And if he has to get his fine hands dirty and digivolve all the way to Callismon, he will. And he'll be getting his steps in. But if you piss him off, he probably has guys to do the messy stuff for him. Permutations are incredibly powerful, and the ability to put together a puzzle comes from the ability to recognize the pieces that make it up. It pays dividends to sit down, look at something, and break it down bit by bit, to assess the things it makes you feel and the things you see when you're deciding whether or not you rock with it. BEARMON is a personal favorite of mine. They capture a kind of charisma most people can put a pin in, and builds on its own charms in simple ways all the way up to its monstrous, menacing ceiling. I'm never going to squint my eyes at someone with one by their side, and I might scoff and raise a brow at someone toting around a Callismon because that feels like overcompensating, but I could never dream of bringing that blatant showboating into question. A big fella like that should have a tamer with a big personality, right? I'd have no trouble chilling on the couch and watching movies all weekend with a BEARMON, or being seen with one on the town. If I had kids and one of them found themselves with a BEARMON, I'd probably fall on the floor in relief. No matter what box they happen to fall into, I know they're going to teach their tamer to be better, and be there for them in their own way every step of their partnership. You've got to be able to put up with a bit of lip, and maybe a bit of gentle domestic violence, and maybe some threats if you get too far out of line. But if you take care of BEARMON, you can best believe they're going to find a way to take care of you. They're not a Digimon for me, but I'd bet on a chance that they're the right one for a fair few of you. You straight? I'm not comfortable discussing that sort of thing with a Digimon. Oh. Yeah, I'm fine. Good thing I brought 2. And if I wasn't down to shoot the shit with you, what makes you think I'd want to talk about my feelings? You know, instead of staring out into infinity, we could go watch a movie. Would probably be a better use of my time, too. I take it that's a no? That's a no. Alright, you're a grown-ass man. What, not gonna try and butter me up? I offered an ear. You didn't want it. So now it's on you to get back on your feet. That's not my prerogative, basket case. You get better. I guess it wouldn't be, huh?